just an average guy who loves the outdoors. I love to hunt and I love to fish. Somewhere along the way I ended up with a video camera in my hand. So now I'm just cruising around checking out cool destinations. Sit back, put your feet up, and come on along. I'm Brian Whitens, and this is where I've been.
I've been guiding for 15 years. Started guiding when I was 12, part-time, fish guiding. At the age of 15, started doing some whitetail guiding and moose guiding, bear hunting. I've been a guide on Eagle Lake for 15 years. I've never guided anywhere else other than a few small weekend deals and stuff like that, but Eagle Lake is my home. I was born and raised on Eagle Lake. Started fishing probably at the age of 3 with my dad. Got into it and loved it, and it's my passion. It's what I love to do.
Hunting is hunting and fishing is fishing, no matter where you go. But there's a huge difference between hunting in your own backyard or fishing on your favorite lake versus a trip to somewhere like Ontario, or anywhere for that matter. Some factors are the same. If you're hunting, your gun or your bow is dead on, your clothes are ready, and your boots are by the door. If you're fishing, you're stocked up on your favorite spinners, your reel is oiled up and spooled with new line. At home, you've scouted the area, you know where every rub and scrape is. Your trail cam's been hanging off a tree for a month. You know where the deer are and when they're moving. Or you know the lake like the back of your hand, and you know exactly where you'll be throwing your first cast and what'll be on the end of your line when you do. So, how does all this happen when you head out of town on your annual hunting or fishing trip, or that trip of a lifetime?
Then when the dew hits them tree leaves in the morning, it's like a candy store. And we go.
How is it that you can show up at noon and be on the water by 1? Or show up on a Saturday morning and be in the stand that afternoon? What about all the scouting, the baiting, or figuring out where the fish are hanging? In my travels, I've spent a lot of time at a variety of hunting and fishing lodges. I've gotten to know several lodge owners, and I've seen firsthand all that goes on long before the hunter or the fisherman hangs his hat in the cabin. Whether it's the lodge owner himself or a hired hand, he's your ticket to a successful trip. He's your guide, and his only goal is to do all he can to make certain you're successful, to make certain that everything is perfect, ready, and waiting. His biggest reward? The look on your face when you land that 50-inch muskie, or when you put your tag on a bull moose or a buck of a lifetime. He's your guide, and his success is measured only by your success.
Still had stuff in it, so they're still working it. Have to come in here next time with oil, food scraps. Actually, we have food scraps in the boat. We'll make another trip back there and pick up a pail of that and dump it in there. 2 pails actually, we'll fill it up. Let's get down to the good stuff. Some people who say just put a little bit out and go back every day. Problem with that is you get one dominant bear at a bait coming in, eats his morsel of food. Yes, he will come back after you rebait it, but you get one dominant bear. We've seen, when you put out the buffet, we've seen 3-4 bears at a time at a bait because there's no competition for food. So, got a bait that's been hit hard. So we're gonna put the buffet back out. And away we go.
Handle it again later.
We need a Some people say, why do this? There actually isn't enough oil for this bucket. It's pretty good though. But by submersing everything in this used French fry oil, not only does it obviously taste good to the bears and it's very fattening for them, they like that, but it preserves all that food in there. So if that bear is not hitting it for a few days, it's fresh. Bears will eat anything they can get their hands on, but they like it right out of the fridge, just like me. Let's go.
Watch Real Outdoors as they travel to a new and exciting destination each week. Real hunting and real fishing in the real outdoors.
We had an opportunity to do some pretty neat stuff in camp. I asked you if you would go from being the guider to the shooter.
As luck would have it, during my trip to South Shore Lodge, Gord was having some trouble with a nuisance bear at the landing. It seems as though the troublemaking bear had ripped the door off the storage building, got into the garbage on multiple occasions, and had been regularly climbing all over the guest vehicles in the parking lot, including my truck. This is bad for the lodge owner, but good for a guy who runs around Ontario with a truckload of video equipment looking for stuff to capture on tape. So the plan was set. There were no bear hunters in camp, so Jason the guide would finally get to hunt. Well, all in all, it worked out pretty good. The guide finally got to be the hunter. The culprit that was trashing the cars in the parking lot at the landing was eliminated, and Jason got to put his tag on a beautiful chocolate bear. Not a bad day's work.
For me to have a chance of, I'm usually the guy that sets up the baits, puts the stands up, and then guts the animal. This was something that really excited me because I still got to do, the baiting and the setup of it. But I was actually the guy this time that climbed the stand and waited there to see what comes in,
Bear hunting is very unique in a way that here we're so thick in the bush, we're so remote.
This is hunting 4 or 5-year-old bear that's never been in human contact.
One of the really cool things about hunting at South Shore Lodge is the fact that we access our baits all by water. We get into our aluminum boats, our smaller boats with our little 20s, and we run up these creeks. We'll go for 3-4 miles up a creek. We'll get to a spot where in the springtime the bears are used to coming in there for the suckers and for that food source. Then we start baiting after the blueberries are done and their food source kind of is starting to dwindle and they're really on the hunt for that food. We start bringing in bait. We get bears coming in. These bears are wild. A lot of people say, I don't want to go bear hunting. You just throw a jelly donut out there and a bear comes in. No. No. When you're talking to a hunter and you start telling them some of the stuff, well, we may have to go and get some bear scat from another bait and bring it in if the bears are too wise. We have bears sitting in the stand and they say the bears are stomping on branches and stuff like that, and they're like making all this noise and ruckus, woofing at the bait site and stuff, and they're like, what are they doing? They know you're there. When a bear goes to that bait, you see a pile of stew. The bear smells the broth, he smells the peas, the pieces of carrot, he smells the different items in that bait, and then he smells a guy.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you put on,
no.
He knows you're there.
That's right. And they have that sense too, that sixth sense. It's a hunt.
Yeah.
Even though it's over a bait, it's a hunt.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
an exciting hunt when you're hunting these wild bears.
Watch Real Outdoors as they travel to a new and exciting destination each week. Real hunting and real fishing in the real outdoors.
So, you get to your destination. Your guide is there awaiting your arrival. You hit the bush in search of the elusive moose. Your guide brings you to an area where he's done some scouting and found some good sign. Nothing. You move to another spot, and yet another. They're all spots he's scouted and watched for weeks. He knows the area like the back of his hand, and he's relentless in his mission, which of course is putting you, the hunter, in the right spot at the right time. By now, you're good friends. Why? Because that's just how guides are. He's not just there to put you on fish or game, he's your hunting or fishing partner. But unlike the rest of your buddies, his only interest is in your success. Suddenly all the work your guide has done long before you arrived, along with some expert calling, pays off. You've got a moose on the ground. Now what? Well, without hesitation or even a second thought, your guide is on it.
Well, now we gotta wait for the four-wheeler.
He's got his knife out and he's ready for gutting. He's already making plans on how to get 800 or more pounds of moose out of the woods. And you know you've got nothing to worry about. You know he's going to make sure it gets done. Whatever it takes, he's going to make certain you go home with not only a truckload of moose meat, but nothing but the best of memories from your trip.
Moose hunting. We hunt moose. My favorite animal to try and bag are moose because there's no magic salt lick, there's no magic bait, there's no magic lure for moose. what do? You go out there and you pretend to be a moose.
Yeah. If you can master the moose call, you have a very good chance of bringing in, you know, a mature bull. One neat technique for moose that I was shown by my dad was using a bailing can out of the boat, filling it full of water and doing a cow and heat call and slowly dumping a little bit of water so it sounds like the cow's urinating, you know, and that has worked very well for me over the years, you know, in bringing in bulls. Another good technique is people use paddles and stuff to imitate another moose. What I like to do is use a paddle, but not only imitate the moose itself, but to act like a moose. Beat the willows, you know, rub the trees, and that can work real well too.
Cool. I mean, no matter what, whenever you're sitting in the bush, when you're guiding, especially moose, when you're there with the hunter and it's a one-on-one deal and you're calling in the animal and you're getting the animal in, that's just as exhilarating as the pulling the trigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you get a boost out of the foot.
South Shore Lodge is a boat-in lodge situated on a quiet, secluded corner of Ontario's famous Eagle Lake and home to some of the finest walleye, muskie, pike, and smallmouth fishing Eagle Lake has to offer. The laid-back atmosphere, great food, great service, and great people make South Shore Lodge one of my favorite stops.
Watch Real Outdoors as they travel to a new and exciting destination each week. Real hunting and real fishing in the real outdoors.
Guide's job is more than just waiting in the boat with your fishing gear for that next group to come down. What goes through your mind before you go to bed? You're going to be in the boat with people, and then when you get up in the morning?
Well, a thing for me is I always like to look at the weather the day before and always have a game plan, you know. I like to know, like, for one, I mean, if you're muskie fishing, it's totally different. You got a different train of mind going on. But when I walleye fish, I always go wind direction and then plan out my route for the day. So when I get in the boat in the morning, first thing I'm always thinking is, what's their equipment like? That's a big part of it. And how well do they fish? Because I have to adjust on what kind of structure I can fish, what type of fishing we can do. Some people don't like to cast, but still like to fish northerns, still like to muskie fish. So you got to adjust. You have to totally, you know, you go to trolling, you go to live bait rigging. I like to have a game plan. When it comes down to it, I like to be prepared. I like to have my boat prepared before people get in there. You know, they come in my boat and they look and they're like, you know, you're organized.
Yeah, right.
I like to be organized. I don't like to have fish in the boat and tangled and yada yada.
How many times do you put that game plan together and you wake up in the morning, it's like, what the?
Hundreds of times I'll have my plan. I'll fall asleep and wake up and think, yep, I'm going here, here, and here, and I look outside and the wind's total opposite what it was, and I just jump in the boat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fish here.
Yeah, it's
you know.
And that's the diversity of the guide, and that's why people don't realize the value of a guide for a day or two on a new body of water and what you get from it. One of the things that we really do when we send a guide out is that we don't do very many fully guided trips. You know now that it's like you might be with a new group, you might be out for 1 or 2 days, but the idea is orientation. It's a school. This is how we fish on this part of the lake, this time of year, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. And that can also change your plan for if you got these people in the boat for 5 days in a row. We don't want to go fish the same spot 5 days in a row.
Exactly.
So I mean, and that just all goes towards the glorification. People think that this guiding position is just this.
Yeah, it's not.
No,
you know? I mean there's a lot more to guiding than people think of. You know, oh, you get to fish every day for a living.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is great. I mean, I love what I do. I live for what I do. There are days when there's 4-foot waves and you're out there in the middle going up and down and up and down. You know, it makes it tough, but you always stick through it. And
What's the saying? People are out there, and it's I've heard. I've guided lots, and I've heard it a million times. Oh, bad day fishing's better than your best day at work. And you're looking there and you're going, what if your bad day of fishing is your day at work?
Exactly. Yeah. Lunch.
What is it that makes someone a good guide? It's certainly more than just a guy who knows where the fish are biting on a given day, or a guy who carries bait into a stand.
What I enjoy so much more at South Shore Lodge is the people. A lot of different people, a lot of down-to-earth people that are here to have fun. It's a totally different atmosphere here. You're at a boating lodge where there's no vehicles.
It's someone who knows not only where the fish are biting and on what, but why. And not only where the deer or bear are, but where they came from. It's someone who focuses not on the fish or the game, but the surroundings in which they live. He or she has an in-depth knowledge and love of the sport and the outdoors. They've dedicated their lives to what they love to do. A guide is someone who is more than happy to take all of the knowledge they've accumulated over the years, all of the tricks and techniques they've learned, and pass it on to you, the guest, so that you can have a successful trip, so that you can enjoy.
It is nice too because it's a little bit of everything. I get to go out in a boat a couple days a week, but I'm always still working with the people, you know. Just helping people get on fish is what I love to do, whether I'm in the boat, out of the boat, or whatever. When they come back and say, you know, before the boat's even tied up at the dock, they're telling you their story. You know, we went exactly to where you said, which is kind of you know, an accomplishment to me on putting people on fish without even having to be in the boat.
So on your next trip, your next hunting or fishing adventure, before you head back home, stop and think about your guide for a bit. Not only about all that he did for you while you were there, but also all the time and work he put in before you arrived, before you even booked your trip. Think about how different your trip would have been had he or she not been there. Think about what you've learned. Think about why he does what he does. Take a minute to shake his hand and tell him thanks. And remember, if you're happy, he's happy.
It's what I love to do. I just love the wilderness, love being out here. Every day when I wake up, if I know I'm going in the bush, fishing, hunting, trapping, I mean, what more can you ask for?
I'm Brian Whitens, and that's where I've been.
Oh, because what am I, a pansy? Is it deep there?
Little bit.
How wet are you?
Wet enough to just walk now.
The life of a guide.